let's go to spring. All right, let's go to spring. And Matt, you get first dibs because the Pac-12 is saying we're not even going to have any type of student-athlete interaction on a surface as far as games being played until the end of the calendar year 2020. So nothing. That includes the basketballs and everybody else into 2021. So what are the benefits of having a spring football season for college campuses and college athletes?
Well, I mean, look, we talked about this on the show a few weeks ago, and I don't want to say I'm a proponent for spring football, but I think at this point it is clearly the only option for the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and potentially the other 3 Power 5 conferences. Look, I think obviously the financial impact will be huge to absorb some of the loss that's occurring now and will occur throughout the fall. But I also think, like we talked about, and Coach is just so passionate about football in general and just playing the game that these kids love. So playing the game, I mean, that's the positive impact. And I know it's not ideal. And this whole argument we just had, nothing is ideal. We are in a pandemic that no one knew was coming, and no one knows how to respond to. There is no guarantee that all the same questions are going to be answered 4 months from now. There's no guarantee of that. But a spring football season, no matter how it's shaped, and again, there's going to be dozens of different proposals go out probably in the next couple of weeks and months. I think it would be great because it's the only option left. And I want to see, selfishly, like Reggie said, I want to see players play the sport that they went to college to play. I want to see them. I want to see games. I want to, the sport that I love. So I think spring is viable. I think it can happen. I think there's obstacles, but that's what now these two conferences for now have months to prepare for. And let's hope that they get it right this time. If there is the rapid testing, if there is what Joel said, the cardiac MRIs, if they are more available at that time and the cases do drop, let's have a plan in place and then move forward and you figure it out. But I think it's viable, and I think at this point it's the only option.
Reg and Joel, I want to get to you guys in a moment about the NFL implications of what spring football would be. But Urban, I want to swing it to you, and I got a couple lines I want to tee you up with. Yesterday, I listened to you on the Big Ten Network, and you were asked about your notion on playing spring ball, and I wrote down, quote, "no chance," and you were pretty angry about that. But I know you've had further discussions, including with Ryan Day, and again, Ryan Day, the head coach at Ohio State, today threw out an 8 to 9 game schedule with a postseason and end things before the NFL draft. Remember, the NFL draft can be pushed back into June. But your thoughts on what value there is, and if or there shouldn't be a spring season for the Big Ten and the Pac-12?
Yeah, I apologize. Sometimes I get so emotional because I'm knee deep in this. I'm probably too close to the situation of when you have one of your former players you recruited and got to know so closely sobbing on the phone and what do I do? I mean, you're bordering on despair for some people. And I get very upset when I hear people say, well, it's just a game, or, wait a minute now. You're not giving enough credit to these young people to sink their lives into this thing. So I'm very emotional about it. And I did talk to Coach Day, who had a great team. He did. And I have the other thing, not one player that I'm aware of in that organization did anything wrong. As a matter of fact, they did everything right. And you had it taken from you. It's something when something happens and you make a mistake and all that. But I just hate the fact when I see people lose things and they did nothing wrong. And so conversation was about January, February, March. As much as I don't see a spring practice happening, if you did it in January, my biggest thing, Rob, is, and I made it clear, is how do you put someone's body through two seasons in one calendar year? I don't see that happening. Ryan Day is working very diligently on it as we speak, as is James Franklin and some other coaches. And everybody's fighting as hard as they can for that student athlete to get, if it's 5 games, 10 games, whatever it is, because there's guys, first of all, you want to win. You want to showcase your skill set. When you start talking about Ohio State and the Penn States, et cetera, even all schools, you have a handful of players. That's their chance to earn a living, to go do this and get rewarded for this incredible efforts they've given over the years. So will that help them, and will they play? I'm going to wait and listen. I'm very skeptical. If it was later in spring, I'd say no chance, because that's not fair to them. If it's very early spring, I want to hear the model because that's what's being worked on right now.
The spring issue is tough. Coach, I agree with you. I think that it would have to start as close to Jan 1 as possible in order to feasibly put a college football player's body through a season. And again, I think it would have to be reduced probably somewhere under the 9-game threshold, maybe 8 max guys if you're talking about games in the spring. But you could get those in before the draft. But remember, that's in a perfect scenario. That's if everything goes right from today until January 1, as far as national COVID numbers, point of care testing becoming more prevalent so that they can get results within hours and not days. The prevalence of the myocarditis evidence and all the care that goes on with that. So if everything goes perfect, I think that you would have to have a spring season that started very close to Jan 1, which means that you're going to have camp in December. So it'll be very interesting to see if those advances come, and then if they can get a schedule put together that has some flexibility within it and can work that is as quick as possible in the spring, because the later it goes, you're just going to lose out. And then the other part of this, and Coach, I know this is a huge part of what a coach would be thinking about, is what does your roster construction look like at that point? You're going to have kids that graduate early and come to school. Are they eligible for that season? If you have a kid that decides to declare, does that open up a scholarship spot? Are scholarships going to increase? Do they decrease? There's so many questions as far as roster construction. I know that that's like the 150th hurdle in a 200 hurdle race for spring football, but certainly all concerns that you're going to have to start talking about right now.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here. College Football on Fox.